Hello EFD squad and welcome back to Continental Club, where me and these two rapscallions discuss your questions on the hottest topics in European football. Now, UCL special, lads. It's on the horizon. And Adel Khalifa has asked us, first and foremost, who do we think is going to win the competition? And then we're going to pick our games of the week. Joseph, we discussed this on Sunday Vibes way back when. Who did you say then, and who do you think now?
I can't remember who I said, but I believe it was
No.
PSG. I think it was either PSG or Man City. It was one of those two teams. I'm going to stick with one of those two teams, PSG or Man City. I can't remember who I said last time. If you can find it, let me know. But this time I'm going to go for Manchester City.
What about yourself, you lovely bearded gentleman?
I'm pretty certain I said Man City last time.
Yeah.
I am saying Man City again. I've seen nothing to change my mind.
Okay, pretty boring then, because we're all going to go PSG or Manchester City.
Oh.
Right. But I know we each have a different game of the week. You're looking forward to Juventus versus Tottenham, aren't you? The first leg in Turin at the Juventus Stadium.
Yeah, great name.
I don't know. The thing about this game is, like, when you look at Real Madrid versus PSG, there's just loads of talent, but two kind of flawed teams. Whereas Juventus versus Tottenham, I think there's actually way less talent on the field, but two really interesting, competent teams that are more than the sum of their parts. And Spurs have really kicked on. Like, last season, they lost 3 out of their 6 group stage games in the Champions League. Went to the Europa League, went out to Ghent. This year, they're unbeaten. Well, yeah, they stopped caring, didn't they? But this year, they're unbeaten in the Champions League. They won 5 out of 6. In fact, the only game they failed to win was away at the Bernabeu. They've obviously smashed Real Madrid 3-1, which frankly could have been a cricket score. They beat Dortmund home and away, and they are looking dangerous. Like, Song Heung-min has been absolutely outrageous. He's had 6 shots on target. 3 of them have gone in. And Spurs have scored 15, while Juventus have only scored 7. While maintaining a really good defence. They've conceded, I think, 4 goals as well. So, like, they are truly dominant in a group which we expected to be hard. You know, with Dortmund, okay, Dortmund might not have been great now, but at the beginning of the season, they were tearing it up. They still had a really dangerous attack. Real Madrid, okay, they haven't had the best season as well, but they can do damage to anyone on their day. So, I don't know. I mean, I sort of fancy Tottenham's chances to go through. I really do. Yeah, because Juve have all the pedigree. Juve have obviously been to 2 finals in 3 years, but I think the talent drain is in full effect now. I look at their midfield; it's the least talented it's ever been. Higuain looks.
Sami Khedira is in fine form, mate.
He is in fine form, but is he Arturo Vidal? Is he Paul Pogba? I'm not sure he is. And I look at Gonzalo Higuain this season, and I love Gonzalo Higuain. But he looks old. He suddenly looks like he's past 30.
Apart from when they're playing Sassuolo.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, look, against most of the Italian league, Gonzalo Higuain is like bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. Like, he's still an excellent striker, but I look at Spurs and they can just, if they get it right, if Pochettino gets it right, they will steamroll. The question is, how much gets taken out of them by this match against Arsenal at the weekend, where it's going to be extremely exhausting for them scoring 7 or 8 goals.
See, I agree with you in that Juventus are less of a threat than they were last year. You've got Barzagli and Chiellini, who are another year old, people who are in the twilights of their career when that one season is going to make a big difference. But they are in fine form in the league. Little bit more inconsistent in the Champions League than they were last year. I believe 2 draws and a loss. When last year they had that incredible run to the final, didn't they, where they remained unbeaten during the whole process. I think they only conceded 3 goals on the way to the final as well.
Though the loss this season, like, away at the Camp Nou, like worse things have happened to a side, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, that was just a little bit of genius from Messi, wasn't it, that separated the sides. But a lot of pressure on Harry Kane to score, because if he's not scoring in these ties, then who is? Maybe Son, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. But they are heavily reliant on him, aren't they? Joseph, how can you see this tie going quickly before we talk about your game?
I think Juventus' experience will tell. Don't get me wrong, I think Tottenham finding form at the right time. I actually thought they played brilliantly against Liverpool. Unlucky not to get a win there. However, there were some tactical nuances which I think could affect this game. I think Liverpool's pressurisation of Moussa Dembele really hampered Tottenham's game plan. I think that's something Juventus will look to replicate, and I think they can replicate. I also think it's going to be interesting to see how the wing backs for Tottenham get up and down against Juventus because Juventus play quite narrow. So that's going to be a really interesting little tactical battle between Allegri and Pochettino. But I'm just excited to see this game. I think it's two fantastic teams. The one thing I will say is that Juventus at this stage have usually...
Generic praise, match of the day analysis.
Juventus at this stage are usually pumping through Serie A. With being 1 point behind Napoli, there's a lot more pressure on them in the Italian league this year than you would usually expect at the round of 16 quarter-final stage of the Italian league. So maybe having their head on two different competitions will affect them slightly, but I'm going to go for Juventus to edge it just because I'm not the biggest fan of Pochettino's away record against top teams.
To edge the match or the tie? Like,
The tie. I think
tie,
Tottenham will win at Wembley, but I think Pochettino's record against top teams, despite the fact he did really well against Madrid, really well against Dortmund, I think isn't quite there yet, and the experience will tell.
He's coming up against a master tactician
Yeah.
in Allegri as well, isn't he? Big fan of Allegri's, but there's some battles within that game that are going to be fascinating to watch, aren't they? Who will be able to put their footprint on the game in terms of creativity? Will it be Pjanic? Will it be Eriksen?
Sami Khedira versus Eriksen is an
Sami
interesting
Khedira versus
matchup,
Dembele, maybe. You've got Paulo Dybala against maybe a resurgent Lamela in attacking midfield.
Sandro versus Trippier. I mean, like, there's all sorts of weird things going on in this match.
It's exciting though.
But let's move on to your game, Joe, which is Barcelona versus Chelsea, happening the week after.
Oh, it's a tasty tie.
And
yeah, it's happening.
shed some light on it.
It is happening, I think, a week on Tuesday, so it's a little bit far away. And obviously, there's another standout tie, Real Madrid versus PSG. But I think you're going to talk about that. So let's just quickly talk about Chelsea.
Is
versus
it at Stamford
Barcelona.
Bridge, this leg?
This leg is at Stamford Bridge.
Oh yeah, because they didn't
one,
win their group.
which is why Chelsea are definitely going to lose the tie. They will not win at the Nou Camp, I don't think. And despite the fact, I actually think Antonio Conte is probably in the top 3 tacticians in the world. Barcelona's unstoppable force this season, I think, will tell. I just feel like Barcelona at the moment can roll anyone in the competition over. Even the fact that we've said Man City and PSG are probably going to go on and win, I would kind of fancy Barcelona over 2 legs against them. I don't know why.
Over who, sorry?
Over either of those 2 teams. I think over 2 legs, Barcelona are the best team in the competition right now. But I think in a singular game, I think Pep Guardiola...
Especially post-January, right? Now they've added Coutinho to their ranks. Although, is he cup-tied?
He can't play.
Coutinho is cup-tied, but
they're going to have
to be a big factor.
But they can rest
on
Iniesta, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one, right? Because Chelsea are obviously in such bad form. I think in their last 10 games, 3 wins. That's not really good enough for an Antonio Conte team. Defensively, they're all over the place, aren't they? Obviously, the loss of Andreas Christensen, with that hamstring injury is going to affect them badly. Conte's bigged him up so much. And I think David Luiz, when he comes in there, slightly, I don't know whether that time on the bench has affected him really badly, but in the 3-0 loss against Bournemouth when he came on, and also in the
4-1 loss against Watford.
4-1 loss against Watford, really badly exposed.
Yeah, I don't think
Chelsea.
he's overly motivated to get Conte out of a tricky spot right now. He's alienated.
And I also think that the ability to play between the lines through Busquets and Messi picking up that area just in front of the Chelsea backline, is Kante the man to stop that? I kind of see Kante as more of an all-action, energetic breaker up of play. I don't know whether they've got that positional, the sort of Matic man who will just sit in front of that backline and protect the balls in between the lines, screen that
I think there's a lot more pressure on Kante this season.
Especially with the former Bakayoko.
As Bakayoko is more of a box-to-box player than Matic, so he's not necessarily got that midfield partner who's operating 10 yards away from him. Cesc Fabregas as well. It's in there to sort of obviously take up the creative mantle, but I think Kante's form has suffered as a result of Matic's departure.
I think there's also a problem for Chelsea going forward, the extreme reliance on Eden Hazard at the moment. I think Barcelona will shut that down very simply, especially with Morata going to miss the game. We've got Batshuayi going out on loan. Do we put Giroud in here just as a physical presence up front against Barcelona? Again, I don't think it works with the former Sami Umtiti. Umtiti's been sparkling form.
Yeah, I think Alvaro Morata might be back for this game.
Really? If he's fit, then I would definitely start him in this game, despite the fact he might not be matched 100%.
Yeah, he might not last the whole 90.
But I'm going to go.
Really
Over two legs, I think Barcelona will win this tie fairly comfortably.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, I think keeping Messi quiet for 180 minutes.
At Stamford Bridge, I think Chelsea might stand a chance, but again, their terrible form and Barcelona's dominance, I only see Barcelona winning at the Bridge, I have to say. Don't know what you boys think.
I can't wait for this tie. I'm with you. I think Barcelona will edge this. I've really enjoyed the fact they've surprised everyone this season. They've not played the best football at times, but it's been very functional. They've been very hard to break down. Valverde's dealt with loss to key personnel relatively easy, hasn't he? He brought in Vermaelen when Umtiti got injured. Umtiti was having the season of his life. Beforehand, he's come back. He's slotted straight back in. They look very solid defensively, which they haven't for a couple of years. All of a sudden, they've got strength in depth. Again, like you said, as a result, subsequently they can rest Iniesta for Champions League games, maybe play Coutinho in La Liga. They've just reached another cup final, so confidence will be sky high. And is Mandela still to return to the fold? I'm not sure when he'll be fully fit and ready to fight for a place in that starting XI.
But also, I think
embarrassment of riches.
The fact that Barcelona can take their foot off the gas, being so far clear in La Liga a little bit, helps them. I think in the past, that race between Barca and Madrid has been so tight through these stages. It's constant bang, 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 bang. Now they can take the foot off the gas, ease off, like you said, rest Iniesta for the big games, maybe even rest Luis Suarez for the big games on occasion, play Paco Alcácer in the league. I just think this could be a procession for Barcelona. Might be tighter than we think, but there's no way Chelsea get through this.
Every member of the spine of that team has been having a sensational season, like Ter Stegen, Umtiti, particularly Busquets and Messi. Busquets is having one of those seasons he has every couple of years where you think, I don't know if a midfielder has ever played better than this.
Yeah, the ability,
he's been so good.
The ability to split the midfield from Busquets with that disguised pass is just outrageous. And that's my point about not having a screen of a Matic-type player in front of the back line. If Messi starts finding those pockets of room, this will be a bloodbath.
I think Giroud could be quite helpful for Chelsea here. They could employ a sort of RB Leipzig tactic, which is you can play the long ball to somebody like Giroud, and then when it breaks down, you can win the second ball by swarming all over them. Like Juventus last season pretty much pressed Barcelona out of the game. Like they couldn't do anything, particularly in the first 15 minutes of the game at the Juventus Stadium when they went 2-0 up early on. I don't know. I still think that Conte's issue, they've lost a couple of games against smaller teams recently, but I think in a big game he will make sure he's done his homework and got a tactical plan in place. Do I think that's going to get them through? Not really. But on the other hand, I don't think they'll humiliate themselves. And to be honest, there's no humiliation in going out to Barcelona anyway. I think this could be a really interesting game.
It also feels like the Chelsea dressing room isn't pulling in Conte's direction right now. They're kind of working against each other. I just wonder whether he's got the time, 10, 12 days away, to turn that around. I just don't see Chelsea winning this game.
Yeah, it's like a generic observation, but it doesn't take a genius to tell that the feel-good factor at Chelsea is at a season low at this point, not in great form, are they? But Barcelona, we've not even discussed the likes of Rakitic, Sergio Roberto, the latter who's having a great season at right back. Ter Stegen making 5.5 saves per 90. He's just become a behemoth, hasn't he?
I'm really interested to see the battle between Marcos Alonso and Sergio Roberto, actually, because obviously in a back three, I think that wing-back position against Barcelona, not they all hurt them, but that is an option to attack through those wing-backs.
I don't think you'll see Alonso in the 12-yard box like he did in the Premier League against Chelsea.
I think
against there.
I completely agree. I think they'll struggle big time in a similar way that Juventus did when they went to the Camp Nou.
Should we move into my game?
Yeah, go on, let's move into
Real Madrid versus PSG. This is an absolute epic for Valentine's Day. I'm sure girlfriends across the country are absolutely delighted with the timing of this one. Now, Real Madrid, lads, haven't been knocked out of the last 16 since the 09-010 season against Lyon.
Wow.
That seems like an age ago, doesn't it? And the Champions League's been a welcome respite for them this year, hasn't it? Because, well documented, they're struggling a little bit domestically, but they've won 4, drew 1 and lost 1 in the Champions League. Both times they dropped points, it was against Pochettino Spurs. Extremely impressive in that competition. Scored the 3rd most goals in the competition so far as well, which is pretty telling. Of Cristiano Ronaldo's form in particular, who's still maintained those ridiculous levels in the competition, but they're behind Liverpool and PSG on that front. Although domestically, pretty woeful. That's 4 losses and 6 draws in 21 games. Not exactly Champions League form, never mind.
It's like Liverpool form.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind league winning form. But PSG have never made it past the quarter-finals, boys. So the pedigree, the history is with Los Blancos, obviously knocked out by Barcelona last year, despite winning the first leg 4-0. I think we all remember that tie. But domestically, an absolutely imperious home form. 24 games, 20 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. One of them coming to Lyon a couple of weeks ago, and they were probably unfortunate not to get a point out of that
worldie as
game.
well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Went
exactly.
down 10
Well,
then.
3 world-class goals in that game, yes, with Dani Alves getting sent off. And in the UCL, how about these numbers? Mbappe, 4 goals, 3 assists. Neymar, 6 goals, 3 assists. Cavani, 6 goals, 1 assist. Of course, helped out there massively by Celtic. Between them, they're taking around 12.4 shots per 90, which is more than a lot of teams at this point, and creating around 6.3 chances for one another and their teammates. And I know I've just said they've never progressed past the quarterfinal, but they feel like a different beast this year, especially with Neymar.
Definitely.
They've got that sort of cockiness about them. There's a swagger to them, isn't there? And I think Unai Emery is a little bit more comfortable now in the job. I obviously survived that period in the summer where people were calling for his heads. They've got a more settled formation now. I think that midfield 3 of Rabiot, Verratti, obviously Thiago Motta sort of drops in and out of it, and maybe Angel Di Maria or Pastore, or whoever completes that sort of triumvirate in that 4-3-3 is probably the best in Europe. I think they were very unfortunate to lose to Bayern Munich 3-1 as well, and probably unfortunate not to put more than 3 past them in the home game. So they've shown that they can dispatch some of Europe's big boys. I don't know how you boys see this tie going, but I think Real Madrid are going to edge it at the Bernabeu, and PSG will maybe do the job at the Parc des Princes.
I disagree. I actually think PSG are going to roll them over at the Bernabeu. I think they should look at how Tottenham approached the game at the Bernabeu and take a lot of confidence from that match. I think they're a far superior team to Tottenham, and I just don't see any world in which that Real Madrid backline copes with the PSG frontline.
What, of Carvajal, Ramos, Varane and Marcelo?
I don't think there's a single defence in the world that copes with that backline. And I know that Bayern Munich beat them 3-1, but let's face it, PSG could have had another 2 or 3 on the day. Probably should have had another 2 or 3 on the day. And if you're going to score, doesn't matter where you go, 2 away goals in the opening leg, it's almost game over, in my opinion. If PSG get limited to below 2 goals, I'll be surprised. And I think as soon as they get the second, it's tie over. Don't see Real Madrid scoring 3+ goals in Paris. And I think you can guarantee another 2 goals in Paris.
I think Real Madrid have fewer ways to hurt you than they've ever had in the past, unless Bale has a blinder. Like their attack is slower than it's ever been because Ronaldo's dropping pace, Benzema's dropping pace, Asensio's been in poor form this season. I mean, admittedly, he's very young. Whereas I look at that PSG team and you've got Cavani, who is one of the best in the world at finding pockets in the box.
He needs to step up, though.
His movement is absolutely... You say he needs to step up, but last season in the quarterfinal, he was absolutely sensational. He scored that great goal away at the Camp Nou, and frankly, Barcelona got historically lucky to get through that tie.
Although he did go one-on-one, didn't he, late in that game? And should have buried.
He did, but then the chance that he scored, I think, like
the tie.
You wouldn't expect him necessarily to score. So I mean,
one-on-one's not really his forte either.
No,
is it?
I feel like when he's got time to think about it, it's not
he
good.
Goes to pop.
But in terms of finding space, he's absolutely amazing at it. And I just look at that. Yeah, I think you're right. Like that attack, Neymar can pretty much skin anyone he wants if he's in the mood, and he will be.
I think in the Champions League he's completing around 11 dribbles a game.
It's a joke. It's a joke. I don't know how. If you're Real Madrid and you're looking to approach this game as Zinedine Zidane, I don't know where you start tactically to try and combat that PSG.
You've got to win the game in midfield.
Yeah,
you have to win
Casemiro and Luka Modric are going to have a hell of a game. Toni Kroos not as impressive this season as he has been prior, but I think the team are suffering for that lack of threat in the final third, aren't they? They're creating chances, they're having shots, but they're just not getting the results. Maybe not where they should be. Maybe that element of misfortune will reverse in the Champions League, as it has sort of done this season, at least with Ronaldo. But I completely agree. Benzema, who have they got to come off the bench? Isco's
Vasquez.
form's dip. Lucas Vasquez is
I think
scoring
Isco's been
one
good.
goal in every 7 for Real Madrid.
Yeah, he's not good enough, I think.
Yeah.
But they've got, they've got Dani Ceballos, they've got Kovacic.
Like
they
we said,
have good players.
CR7's form in Europe has been imperious.
But
so.
it's been good. It's been good from the point of view of goal scoring. But I think in this sort of game, you actually need more protection from your attack. So, for instance, when you've got people just running through the midfield, which is something that PSG are amazing at getting, what you don't want is for Casemiro to have to bring people down and then he gets booked and suddenly your defensive plan goes out of the window.
If he gets booked early doors, they're in trouble.
Whereas you look at a team like Spurs or even a team like Liverpool, and what you constantly see is, and Man City as well, and you constantly see the forwards taking yellow cards so the defensive midfielders and the centre-backs and the full-backs don't have to. They're the ones who are bringing guys down on the counter. They're the guys who are making the cynical challenges.
Firmino in particular.
Yeah, I think they're really, really good at that. And if you don't have them doing that, and Casemiro gets booked, I honestly think Casemiro getting booked could just end it, could just end the tie. Because suddenly you're like, Neymar, Mbappe, they will target him all day long, and he's going to have no protection. I mean, the fortunate thing is Modric in big games has a tendency to be
outrageous.
Sensational.
Yeah.
Like, sensational. And for all the talent in PSG's squad, something always seems not quite right with their midfield. I always just look at their midfield and I think this should be better than it is. Like,
really?
They should be more organised than they are. They should understand each other's movement better than they do. You can always get through their midfild. They've got loads of talented players, but
I think
they're
that's
quite badly
I think that's
set up
changed
quite
this
often.
season in that 4-3-3. I really do, especially with him. Mbappe's one of the best players at finding space in between the defence and midfield, I think, in world football. And he has a tendency to hang out on that right, doesn't he? And drop a little bit deeper. And with sort of Neymar doing that on the left as well, and really sort of being pivotal in terms of driving that ball out of midfield, I actually think they're sometimes more of a 4-5-1. And Edison Cavani's just kind of isolated up top by himself. And I think that has arrested some of the problems they had the previous season, because I think that Verratti and Rabiot, every time I've watched them in Liga, which is sometimes not a great barometer for a tie like this, have just looked like they have an unbelievable understanding of one another.
They're wonderful to watch, but I also think they're not that organised. And when you look at that Lyon game, for instance, like even before the red card, like I was watching Tanguy Ndombele waltz through that midfield. And there's no way, even when they go down to 10 men, that Ndombele should be able to run 40 yards unhindered through the midfield.
Well, go on then. What's your prediction for the game?
This is at the Bernabeu, right? The first leg.
I'm going to go 2-1 to PSG.
What do you reckon?
I'm going to go 2-1 to Real Madrid, and then I think they'll overturn that at the Parc des Princes.
Oh, I might go 2-1 PSG as well. I don't know. I kind of want Real Madrid to go out.
It's on, but if one team is sort of specialise in silencing their critics in this competition, it is Real Madrid. They find a way to reinvent themselves in the last 16 kind of year in, year out, don't they? But what do you guys think? Is that all the games discussed?
That's all the games discussed, mate.
Ooh, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So guys, that was this week's Continental Club. Who do you think are going to be the victors in the Champions League? Let us know in the comments below. UCL Review is back on EFD next week, so keep your peepers peeled for that one. What else should the guys be looking out for, guys?
90+1 facts, Aubameyang. We've had Sanchez, we've now got Aubameyang. Also check out the Sanchez one, that's a good one. And go back, watch Pogba, watch Mourinho. Everything you could possibly want to know about the game's biggest players, managers, clubs, competitions.
The Real Madrid Sanchez, yeah?
No.
Oh, forget that. Actually, go and do that first. Obviously. But then come over tomorrow to Football Daily, because FDFC versus Soccer AM, the first big match. Forget your other YouTube teams. None of them matter. Other than SC Dons, quite like them. But FDFC matter, and it's our first game against Soccer AM. See how we got on over there. And the behind the scenes is already live, right, on FDFC.
Anything for the Dons.
Anything for FDFC.